is a challenge because
as we go into the discussion, we realize that it gives birth to more challenges.
Exactly. Exactly. So because of that, and still the statistics show that there are many persons with disabilities in the rural areas as compared to those in the urban areas. And you know that the situation in the rural areas is normally very difficult as compared to the situation in the urban areas. So because of this, women with disabilities are generally having general issues regarding their life in terms of taking care of themselves, taking care of their children, managing their homes, and many of them are subject to domestic violence. There are many others that are struggling with issues of sexual reproductive health due to discrimination, and to mention among a few.
But again, we have our sisters and mothers who are living with disabilities, but they are living admirable lives. I've seen teachers, I've seen lawyers, I've seen them in different fields with disabilities, but they are living desirable lives. There are even those who are having very big shops in the business sector, very big stalls in the markets, doing well. How do those ones manage to get into such a life?
Yeah, one thing I want you to appreciate is that when we live with disability, it does not deny us from being human beings. Maybe I'll tell the viewers that myself talking to you, I'm a woman with disability, I have a visual impairment. But yeah, life is normal, it goes on as usual. So that means that the way persons without disabilities live their lives, there are those that are rich, there are those that are poor. Yes. There are those that are educated, there are those that are not. There are those that are businessmen, others are lawyers, others are doctors. So that means even in disability we cannot be uniform. We cannot be the same, and we are not the same. And to make it worse in disability, we have different disability categories. I could be visually impaired, but there's another visually impaired who is totally blind. There's another who is partially blind, and their needs are different. We have those that have mental disabilities. Their challenges are different from those that have albinism. We have those that have epilepsy. Their challenges are different from those that are having short stature. And the list goes on. So, to answer your question, how do others do it? Those that have been successful, one is that they have lived in homes where they are not discriminated, they are appreciated
as they grow up.
Family, and they grow up with the same care from their parents and guardians, just as the others. And because of that, it gives them the ability, it gives them the confidence, the capacity to live in this world without looking at themselves as different. But each time a person is discriminated or is seen to be different, they also grow up with a stigma, they grow up with a fear to associate, they grow up with many challenges, and that causes normally the difference. Then there are those that even fear to take their children to school. So those that you are seeing successful, many of them have gone to school. Their parents took care of them, they took them to either special needs schools, others took them to inclusive schools. Whatever way they went to school, they are educated. And because they are educated, the level of exposure of an educated person is different from the level of exposure of that
somebody who has not gone to school.
Yeah, who has not gone to school. So that also causes the difference that you see with the persons with disabilities. Then the communities have accepted them. You may do your big shop, but because the society fears that you are going to contaminate them with your disability, they will not come to your shop, and then your business will not grow. But if the community accepts that this is a businessman who is selling the products that I need as a person, regardless of whether he has a disability or she has a disability.
What I want is the product.
That means that means that this person is going to be successful in their business because community has accepted them. But there are places where we have gone and someone says, I cannot buy that disabled person's things. I'm not sure whether they are clean, or I'm not even sure whether those are the things that make the life become very complicated.
Do we still have such mentality today?
Ah, yes. It is there. We still have people who still think that associating with a person with disability is a problem, is contagious. You have seen, we have some disabilities like persons with epilepsy. When they get the fits or the seizures and they fall down, people still think that if I go to support that person, I'm going to get the disease. Yet there are so many causes of epilepsy other than just touching the person or even associating with them or getting closer to them. Those mentalities are there. We have people who still think that if someone is visually impaired, I cannot even get closer to them. Does she even know how to talk? Does she know how to eat? So instead of talking to you, they'll be wanting to talk to the personal assistant who is helping you out, or they'll fear to get any closer to you. Those mentalities are still there. We have those people who still think that when a person is deaf, they actually don't understand. They have no brains. So when someone is making sign language for them, they're like, but does that one even know what he's doing? So the misperceptions are still there. And because they are still there, the stigma continues, the discrimination goes on, and even in societies, you give birth to a child with disability, the mother struggles, and the husband will run away saying, for us, we never give birth to such children in our clan or in our family. This is not my child. You leave the mother struggling with this child. But all those are misperceptions. The neighbors will come and say, oh, my neighbor, this is a huge problem that you have brought on earth. I even don't know who bewitched you. So instead of running to get the medical guidance that the mother...
To help this child grow.
This child grow in a straight life, they now go to witchcraft. They end up leaving this child inside the house. They end up making the child deteriorate into severe disability. Yet perhaps if they had sought for the interventions early enough, the disability would be there but a bit manageable and mild. But because of the misperceptions that are in community, the disability worsens.
The word women empowerment is almost an anthem. You get? When around the month of March especially, women empowerment, women empowerment.
Yes.
Do you think there is a way our mothers and sisters living with disabilities can be empowered?
Yes.
What are those ways you think these ladies can be helped and empowered?
You know, when we talk about empowerment, we look at making this woman able. First of all, for me, I look at it from the level of when this person is still a girl. She's not yet a woman. You are supporting her to groom her into this woman you want to see tomorrow. But if the interventions at the beginning are not done well, when she's still growing up, then that empowerment we are talking about does not happen. So what needs to be done is at the family level, whether with disability or not with disability, we need the girl to be trained who she is and what she's supposed to be. We have seen in many families, if Esther is a person with visual impairment, is a child with visual impairment, this child will be left on the side. She's not given tasks at home because they'll look at that as torture. She's not trained on how to take care of herself when she's at home. And sometimes if she's not lucky maybe to go to a boarding school where she can manage her own self, there is a lot of protection, that's what we call it from this side of the disability. Protection in the name of saying, I don't want to torture her. But if you accept to take this child through the normal way of life, she finishes eating, you tell her, take those plates to the kitchen, go and wash the plates, of course with your support, removing all the obstacles that can challenge her from doing the house chores that she's supposed to do. I think for me, I see that as empowerment.
So are you saying in the families where we live with girls living with disabilities, do you think we over sympathize with them and pamper them?
Exactly. And when you pamper them, they never grow up as real
Fighters.
as real women. So because of the pampering and the so-called care and protection, we end up making them miss that potential that is in them, that is supposed to make them the stronger women you want to see tomorrow. And the same, because you are overprotecting, you even fear this girl to take her to school, because you're like, I don't know the boys she's going to meet on the way as she's going to school. I don't know if the teachers will be able to take care of her. And because of that, we have seen many parents saying, I'm better off when she's here with me.
Where I can watch her.
Where I can watch her. Yet, she's growing up, and soon, you who is pampering her, you are going to grow old and maybe even die and leave her in a life that is very difficult for her. So for me, I would encourage that as part of empowerment, we need to take our girls to school. From school, they learn how to associate, they learn how to manage many things by themselves. And especially if we took them to an inclusive arrangement where there are girls with disabilities and girls without disabilities, and they are all interacting, it gives this girl more empowerment in terms of how to manage life. And when this person finally grows up into a woman we want to see, we still want to see a woman who is able to take control of herself, her body. Not every man coming around and using her and dumping her, because that is the situation that many women with disabilities are living in. We normally say there's many ladies get their children not out of love, but out of chance.
Yes. Let me first take you to the schools, because you have mentioned it.
Yes.
Do you think these schools of ours, the inclusive ones, as you suggested, are really conducive to all our young girls living with disabilities?
Now that's where the big question is.
Yes.
Much as from the disability side we are advocating for an arrangement that integrates both able-bodied persons and persons with disabilities, the environment is not yet conducive, because you'll find that you are encouraging a child who is on a wheelchair to go to an inclusive school, but the toilets are not accessible. This child has to crawl up to this toilet, and the toilet is all dirty, it is all full of urine, and she's crawling in it, and there are no special stanzas for them where they can go that is separate, that is put aside. So that in itself is discouraging many girls to go to school or even to remain confident enjoying the life at school. Then the teachers, some of the teachers are not yet empowered enough in knowing how to handle these learners with disabilities in school. We have seen many head teachers chasing away our learners, saying, you know, this one is deaf, we shall not be able to manage her, so let her go to a special school where they can teach her in sign language.
Do you find that wrong, Esther?
It is a two-way. It is wrong in one way because the teacher is saying, I don't have the services.
Yes.
But this government of ours of Uganda says that they are implementing inclusive education. They have signed several documents at international level saying they are implementing inclusive education. Inclusive education means I should study from a school that is near me, that I can afford, that can attend to all my needs, without me having to get on a bus and travel miles and miles away just because I'm looking for a special school. This is the interpretation. So by you chasing me, if I'm in Jinja and you are telling me the special school I should go to is in Hoima, then the transport itself to take me there, the parent is going to say, you know, I don't have the money, and they'll leave you at home just because you are looking for a special school. Yet you'd have gone to a nearby school as long as they provide the reasonable adjustments that we want to see. If you know that in your school you are going to have learners with disabilities, try to do a needs assessment and find out what are their challenges. Is this one having a wheelchair? Do we have where a wheelchair person can pass? Yes, we do. Do we have classes that are downstairs where she can attend class? Yes. Do we have dormitories that can accommodate her? That is what we want to see. But many times the moment someone says, oh, this one is a person with disability, this one you shall not manage. So there is a tendency of thinking that persons with disabilities are very expensive to manage, they are difficult to deal with, and because of that, we have found that the service delivery to them is very...
Esther, do you look at that? A headmaster says, Mama Susan, I'm sorry, we shall not manage to handle Susan because of her situation. But if you went to Mukono or Entebbe, there is a school, do you look at that as discrimination?
Yes. It would have not been discrimination if government was not implementing an inclusive policy. Because previously, before government committed to implementing inclusive education, learners were moving those very many kilometers. We had people going to Hombe. Hombe is a school for the blind in Kabale. There you'd find another in Iganga, another in Kangole, in Karamoja, and those were long distances. Yes. Then government said, no, this is not fair. We need to see how we bring the services closer to the people. And they said we shall be implementing inclusive education. So then the question is, where is inclusive education if you still want me to move kilometers and miles far away from my home district, from where my parents can afford? So that's where we say that we need to do more to ensure that all schools are actually able to accommodate learners with disabilities, because we promised that this is what we want to achieve. Government is talking about universal primary education. Universal should mean that even the nearby school should be able to handle a child.
Everybody should manage to access the service.
The education, without you saying that, now this one we shall not be able to handle. I think their school is in the other place, and even you don't have any contact that can take you to that place. So that is denying the right to education, and because of that, we are seeing many learners, especially the girls, failing to go to school.
On the part of our sisters, our mothers themselves, the ladies living with disabilities, what do you think they are to blame for their own situations? Those of them that have missed out on empowerment.
For me, when I'm talking for rights of women with disabilities, I never want to blame the women. Because these women you see here, they are ready to accept anything as long as it's available. So the ladies you see, many times they don't have the information that should help them to be empowered. When the woman representative at the else one is coming to mobilize, they'll go for all the women and they'll leave out the women with disability. So how will the woman with disability know that there's actually a distribution of mosquito nets at the sub-county level which I should go and pick, where I can send a child to go and pick for me a mosquito net? They don't have information. And the issue is, there's the thinking that, does that one also need a mosquito net?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, that's what we find in the communities. Actually, they'll even tell you, hey, we even didn't know that they need mosquito nets, but these are human beings also who suffer from malaria.
You said they don't have the information. Yes. When an LC comes to mobilize, they will leave them behind. Yes. But we have many of them that are actually active in politics at the village level. The other day I was interviewing the chairman of Iganga district, Mr. Gabula, you get? Yes. Okay, for him he is male, but I've seen many councillors. The other day I was, a colleague was talking to the speaker of Entebbe municipality. She's a lady living with disability. Yes. So how do we have these ones? Don't you think those who keep at home are to, I don't want to use the word blame, they are responsible in a way for their situation?
They are not responsible. The reason why they don't get there, now the people you are talking about are politicians. Much as they are persons with disabilities, they are also what? Politicians. When they are politicians, they will go to those ones who have the votes. So if someone is in the house and is maybe having, for instance, an intellectual disability. This person is not able to move up to, for instance, even outside their compound. They are just lifted up to the outside, they are lifted back into the house. So what will that person be able to do? So that person, to get the service, needs a very vibrant caretaker who is able to find the counsellor representing persons with disabilities or the woman representative at the village to say, you know, I have a child here, please help me. But many of those people, many of the caretakers do not do that. So because they don't do that, we find that such a person will remain in that state even when there's a service that is available, and they will never get it. We have persons that have mental disabilities. When they need that additional support, that if you allowed them to, if you don't give them the information or if you don't bring it to their doorstep, it becomes difficult for them to be part of the other bigger services. What I told you earlier is that we cannot be the same. We have people that have severe disabilities, and this is where normally our conversation comes from. Leave alone these ones, you find they can walk, they can go to meetings, they can articulate their issues. There are those that are not able to, and they are in a situation that needs empowerment, needs support. And this is the group that I'm talking about.
Thank you so much, Esther. We are taking a short break. On return, we'll briefly talk about the sexual harassment issue, then the relationship of women with disability and their issues within the home settings as mothers, as wives, and how they can now be helped. Towards the end, we'll talk about solutions to those challenges. To you watching us, we are celebrating Women's Day this Friday, and we continue with the celebration with a discussion to do with our women that live with disabilities. How are we helping her? How are we concerned about the kind of life they are living? Get that cup of tea, keep it with us.
UBC is the national public broadcaster. We educate, inform, entertain, and inspire our audiences. You can watch us on free-to-air channel 001, DSTV channel 282, GoTV channel 371, Star Times channel 201, Zuku TV channel 20, and Azam TV channel 350. Even when your subscription expires, you can still watch UBC for free on your pay TV platforms.
Juko.
Yo.
Wachiko. Check the shopping, man. What's your secret?
Haven't you heard of the Parish Development Model PDM?
Yes, I did, but I thought it was just a talk.
No, Sebatia. It is real. I and a few friends together formed a circle, accessed money from the PDM, invested in a portrait project, and now things are moving.
Juko. I thought I was one of your friends.
You are.
But you left me behind.
I didn't leave you in poverty. What you do, just visit your LC2 chairperson and your parish chief and start the process of economic transformation. Just like that. The Parish Development Model is an initiative from the government of Uganda through the Ministry of Local Government designed to transform all lives of Ugandans for the better. PDM, my parish, my development, my life.
ABC One-on-One, we thank you so much for watching and welcome back from the break. We are still celebrating Women's Day in this particular discussion, and our concentration is specifically on women living with disabilities. Their kind of life, how are they living it, and how can we help them in the way they are living? Actually, that is the very part we are going to. My guest is Miss Esther Chozira. She is the CEO Nodipu. Nodipu is more common in our ears than when in its full form. So Esther,
Yes.
we talked about different challenges, but what challenges do women with disabilities face as married women, as mothers?
There are a number of challenges that women with disabilities face as mothers. First of all, many of them are mothers not out of their wish, but out of the situation that they are living in. Many of them find themselves conceiving either out of rape or out of forced marriages, or out of sympathizing with themselves, like, I need a child to take care of me in case I grow. And so that in itself is a big, big challenge, because many of such women do not have the economic muscle to manage the challenges that come with having a child who does not have a father who takes care. Because many of them, once a man knows that I've made this one pregnant, they disappear. And when they disappear, this mother is left with these children to take care of. What is also sometimes very strange is that you find this man giving this lady a child, comes back when the child is a bit grown, gives another child, comes back, and you find the woman has like 6 children out of a man.
With an absentee father.
With an absentee father. And this woman has to struggle to take care of the education, the health, the clothing, and all the requirements for these children to grow up. So that is a huge burden. The children have to eat, the mother doesn't have the money, and the support is not there. So this has made many women with disabilities very helpless. Many of them even going to the street to beg. Many of them appearing to be very vulnerable, and the whole problem is really around the burden they have to take care of their family. Then the other challenge that they face is that many times this does not come, the children do not come alone. They come with other complications like HIV/AIDS. And because the HIV/AIDS is there, you know the implications of the HIV/AIDS. They need the medication, they need the care, the food. And there's this whole thinking that, just as I said, that sometimes the support we need does not easily come, because there's a thinking that because you're already having a disability, you don't even need the good health. You don't need to have the good health as a person with disability. So because of that, you find that many persons who are living with the HIV/AIDS and they are persons with disabilities, their care is very minimal. Many times, if this lady decides to say, let me take this child to maybe the parents of the man, because many of them know where their husbands are and where they come from, they will quickly chase her away, and they will even say, you know, how can our son give birth to
Have a child with a woman like you.
a woman like you? You're actually tying yourself to our boy. That time he becomes even a boy, and yet he's the one coming to make all these problems. Yeah, so that bit alone, we have seen many women with disabilities getting depressed as a result of the treatment they go through with some of these experiences. So the challenges, as I said, there are really many, and because of that, our advocacy for inclusion comes in, that if there are services that are coming to support such families, they always need to look out for these families that have women with disabilities.
Thank you, Esther.
Yes.
Now, we have generally looked at only challenges.
Yes.
We mentioned about how they are poor, they are in poverty, many of them have missed education, they are suffering in marriages, and things like that. Now, generally, who would you call to the rescue
Of such situation?
of the woman living with disabilities in Uganda?
The rescue should come from all of us. We have different roles to play in enabling a woman with disability overcome these challenges. One, I would begin with government, which is the biggest duty bearer when it comes to empowerment of women and taking care of all of us as a population. Yes. We need to see programs that are targeting women with disabilities. Government has done a lot in providing several programs for women generally. But when we don't mention women with disabilities, many times the implementers, the enforcers on ground, they always ask us, where are you mentioned in this document? They are telling me women. They are not telling me women with disabilities. And we always struggle to say, no, when they talk about a woman, I'm also one of them. They say, no, you have your disability things, you go. We want you to go and demand for the special grant for persons with disabilities. That's where I should go. But I'm a woman before I become a woman with disabilities.
Maybe the mistake is to claim your share as a woman, but again you add a woman living with disability.
No, I should claim both because I'm first of all a woman. So, this is what I think. So if you are bringing women empowerment program,
go and claim as a woman.
Yes. Then, because of the additional burden I come with, another woman will not need a personal assistant like I do, because I cannot move by myself unless I have someone supporting me. True. So that means there's additional burden there. And if you are planning for a program, how are you taking care of this personal assistant who is coming with me in terms of the cost? Then, if I'm a woman with hearing challenges and I use an interpreter, I'll need someone to translate for me so that I get the information. So that means that that additional burden does not make me just benefit from this program as a woman. So I should benefit as a woman with disability. And that is always lacking when the designers of programs are actually coming up with women empowerment programs.
They generalize, they look at you in a general kind of perspective.
Exactly. And yet, they need to look at the level of vulnerability that someone comes with and the level of empowerment that this person needs. You may find that you are designing a skilling program, but you are only looking at this girl who has not been able to go to school and she has no disability. I'll need to come with a support person to see me through, get this skill. But if you go to the officer in charge and say, I want to learn and I have a disability, they're like, in this program we didn't plan for anyone with a disability. So maybe you'll have to wait until that program comes. And we keep saying that we have a very small cake that all of us must share from. So if we are going to wait to get the special things that come for disability, then that becomes complicated.
So your first claim is government to come up with inclusive programs.
Exactly. That as they are designing, say that we want youth with disability and those without disability. So if you are going to bring in those with disability, how are you taking care of their special needs to enable them benefit from this program? Because if we just wait until we get another program that is specific, it will never come. So how are we sharing from this one that has come? How do we ensure that the skilling programs that government is coming up with, because we have seen government investing a lot of money in the skilling programs, but how are the young women with disabilities benefiting from these skilling programs? When they go there, they tell them, you wait, yours are coming. Where are they? They are not there. So for me, I would want government to be deliberate on ensuring that the programs they are designing are very specific. Even in the beneficiary list, they should list women with disabilities, youth with disabilities, men with disabilities, children with disabilities. That is going to enable us move at the same pace with the rest of the women programs and the women population that is there.
Let's look at education, where our girls with disabilities are missing out on education opportunities. What would you suggest?
Yeah, still. Right now, we are asking government to come up with a policy on that should support the special needs education of learners with disabilities. Because as we speak, much as government has committed itself at the international level that they are going to implement inclusive education, there is no policy that is guiding this framework. So because of that, we are struggling here and there. You go to a school, when they chase that one away, you go to another school when they accept that one. So why should we be in such a life of uncertainty? You are not sure, if I take my child to this school, this child is going to be accepted. Sometimes you even fear to disclose the disability of the child just because you don't know whether the child is going to be accepted in the school or not. So there should be very clear policies and frameworks that enable us to confidently go to a head teacher and say, my child has autism and I want her to study from this school, and I want the reasonable adjustments made for her to learn with the rest in the same school. Other than hiding, they call you, your child is not picking things in class, you fear to say that, you know, my child has a mental challenge. Yes. This child needs more time, more adjustment. This child needs reasonable accommodation. You fear to say those just because you fear that the head teacher is going to say, we cannot manage this child here. So very clear policy frameworks will help us get there. And once government has identified that actually this school has learners with disabilities, let the support be given. Because some head teachers tell you, we are here struggling with these learners. We accepted them in the school, but it's like we committed a crime. The small grant that they get, the subvention grant, sometimes is very small to make them manage taking care of the learners. You know that many of our learners with disabilities are not able to commute from home every day. They need like a boarding arrangement, and many of the schools that are near them do not have these boarding facilities. And you know, government does not take it up. So those are all challenges that are impeding our learners from acquiring the education they want. You go to some schools, especially in the rural areas, the facilities like the machines for braille, for those with visual impairment, are not there. So we need government to continue supporting the schools to facilitate them with the required equipments and materials necessary for learning. What
would be your message to parents that have girls living with disabilities in their homes? It may not be necessarily parents, but families in general. Families in general, yeah. They first of all want to know that this child is a child like any other child, but they want to take extra care. Extra care doesn't mean that you should protect the child from being part of the family, growing up like any other child. You only need to take the extra care that, for instance, the boys in the home and the neighbors are not taking advantage of this girl, because we have found that many of the sexual harassment cases we are getting, it is normally the family members or the neighbors or the community members that are taking advantage of the disability of the child, and they impregnate them, and they always deny responsibility. So we want the parents to take that extra care, and we also want the parents to enable this girl go to school. If the child does not get education, you'd not have helped this girl at all, because we had some school mottos that say education is the key to success. That motto still stands, that if you don't give education to a child with disability, you'd have actually done them very bad, because you don't know what their tomorrow is going to look like. You don't know who take advantage of them. When a child has the education, they are strong enough to advocate for themselves, to say no where they must, and to say yes where they should. So that empowerment is very, very important. You seem to rule out the fact that education for people living with disabilities comes somehow with a cost. I'm avoiding the word expensive. So I want you to I'm not ruling out that. Yes, I want you to, how do you guide government and families in consideration of that? Yeah, I cannot rule out the cost, because I gave you an example that if I'm a person with visual impairment, whereas the child with sight is going to be reading the book using their eyes,
I'll have to read using my hands, using a machine, using a computer, using talking gadgets, and all these are expensive things. And now when it comes to technology, of recent we are having screen readers which are enabling persons with vision impairment to access their computers. All those are expensive gadgets, and there's no way we can avoid cost. For me, what I want is that if we present cost as the first thing, then we shall never educate a child with disability, because everything that comes with disability comes with a cost.
How do you then guide the families? I'm talking about a family deep in Masaka, deep in Chiboga, deep in Gulu, down in Iganga, a family with meager resources. They would really love to take this girl to school, but now in that kind of a challenge. How do we get out of it?
Now, how we get out of it is our government to make sure that those schools are actually equally facilitated. Regardless of whether you are in Masaka or you are in Namutumba, the school near that child should have the facilities. Of course, when we talk about these are next to impossibility. But in the meantime, we encourage parents, if you can take their children to the special schools, because that's where the services are, please do take their children, because there the child will get the quality education. But if we are talking about the inclusive arrangement that we talk about in Uganda, then government should invest in ensuring that the schools have the facilities, the equipments, and the gadgets and the technology we are talking about that can enable a learner with disability learn from the nearby schools that they come from. But under the circumstance that the facilities are not there, then we shall have no option but look for the special schools which are having the facilities. So the parent just needs to know, where are these schools in my region? Where are these schools in my district? And this child is taken there, and the child gets the quality education that they need. Otherwise, we cannot run away from cost. Additional cost with disability is always there, and the additional cost should not be given as the excuse for not educating a child with disability.
As Nodipo, what are you doing to supplement government and the families that have these children? How are you helping, briefly?
As Nodipo, we are doing so many things. But first of all, I want you to know that NODIP is an advocacy organization. Yes. We don't do service delivery, because you begin asking us, how many schools have you constructed? How many blankets have you given out? No, we don't do that. But what we do, we are working with the Ministry of Education to advocate, to see that the policy framework is clear on how inclusive education should be implemented. We are working with them to train teachers in some selected schools to support them on how they can handle a learner with disability when the learner is in class, regardless of the type of disability. We are also supporting them to see how they can adjust the curriculum to fit into what suits a child with disability. Because as I said, the difference with disability is that it's not homogeneous. So assessments are done at the individual level, and then adjustments are made accordingly. So we are supporting the teachers to know how to do this and to support the child to get the best education out of this. Then we are also mobilizing the communities, parents, encouraging them to take learners to schools, because previously many parents would fear to say, my child, my child, my child. Others would say it's expensive, it's difficult, but now we are showing them that it's possible. Some of us have gone through it. We are there. It's normally not so easy, it's expensive, and everyone can make it. Okay. So that's the bit we are doing in terms of mobilizing the communities.
What would be your last message? Let's start with women living with disabilities as we celebrate Women's Day.
Yeah, thank you. My message today as we celebrate Women's Day, to my fellow women with disabilities, I want to encourage you that let's continue being empowered. Let's fight for our space. Let's get into the women's space, because there's no special cake that will come for women with disabilities. It is the general cake that comes for women that we must benefit from. So let's try as much as possible to see how we fit into we fit into this community. If we don't do that, we are always going to remain behind, and programs will leave us behind. Yet the slogan says that no one should be left behind. So it is my role, it is your role to see how you look for information, you demand for services, you work with the leadership in your community to get the services reach you. Two, we are also talking about women empowerment and economic empowerment specifically. You know that the burden we have of taking care of our families, of our children, is entirely on us. So if it's entirely on us, it's our responsibility to see how we continue being innovative to boost the incomes of our houses. And this will help us not become beggars, not be seen as charitable, but seen as equal contributors to the community. And this is only possible when you get out of your house, when you come and associate with the community members and be part of the development.
Thank you so much. And generally to all the mothers, as we celebrate Women's Day, in just a sentence.
To all the mothers, I wish you a very happy Women's Day, and I encourage you to always continue fighting the barriers that challenge us as women, and we believe that one day we shall overcome these men here.
Okay, we wish you all the best in endeavoring to overcome us. Her name is Esther Chozira. She's the CEO NUDIPU, that is the National Union of Disabled Persons of Uganda. Yes, we took off some time to talk to them in line with the lives of women living with disabilities as we celebrate Women's Day today, the 8th of March. I will add nothing but wish our mothers the best of the day. My name is Michael Jordan Lukomwa with Davis Kamukam and the whole team. Enjoy the night. Bye-bye.